Hello and welcome. Today we're digging into a question that, well, it really gets to the very heart of modern mental health. Are we even treating the right problem? We're going to explore an argument that challenges some of our most basic assumptions about what it truly means to heal.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract philosophical question. It's a really powerful argument suggesting that our whole approach, even with all its amazing scientific advances, might be working from a dangerously incomplete map of the human mind. So to really get a grip on this dilemma, we're not going to start with charts and graphs. We're going to start with a story, a personal story about a woman named Marina. And her experience, it kind of peels back the curtain on a much, much bigger problem in how we approach mental illness. So let's meet Marina. I mean, on paper, she's the definition of success. She's done everything right, followed all the standard medical advice for depression, tried different medications, you name it. But what she was feeling, it wasn't sadness. No, it was something much, much more chilling. And this is the key, the real kicker. Her issue wasn't some broken sadness switch in her brain. It was a total collapse of her ability to feel anything. That normal human thing we do, grieve, was just gone, replaced by this huge empty void. And that numbness, it was more terrifying to her than any amount of pain. Okay, so Marina's story, it's the perfect way to understand this central idea, this metaphor for what might be fundamentally wrong here. It's this concept of the incomplete blueprint. Think about it like this. Imagine an architect drawing up plans for this amazing state-of-the-art house. Every wire, every pipe, every little detail is perfect. But there's one giant, fatal flaw. The blueprints just forget the foundation. The whole building is designed without any connection to the ground it's supposed to stand on. It's just floating. Well, the argument here is that the modern biomedical model of psychiatry does exactly that. It's obsessed with the wiring of the brain, right? The neurotransmitters, the circuits, all the stuff we can see and measure. But it almost completely ignores the foundation. Things like a person's emotions, their life story, their relationships, that search for meaning. You know, the very ground they stand on. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, that's a nice metaphor, but is it real? Well, yeah. This isn't just some poetic idea. This whole critique is actually backed up by some serious, hard-hitting neuroscience. We're talking biology here, not just philosophy. Enter neuroscientist Antonio Damasio. This guy basically delivered the scientific proof that just blew up that old, outdated idea of the mind being separate from the body. He proved that you absolutely cannot separate thinking from feeling. They are fundamentally linked. And that word integral is everything. Damasio wasn't just saying that emotions are, helpful for decision-making. No, he proved they're an essential, inseparable part of the process. You literally can't have effective reasoning without emotion. It's not an add-on, it's a core requirement. And the way he proved it is just brilliant. He looked at patients who had brain damage in the specific areas that link emotion to logic. And what he found was wild. Their IQ was totally normal, their memory was perfect, but they couldn't make the simplest decisions, like what to have for lunch. Without their feelings to act as a guide, their powerful logic engine was just paralyzed, useless.
Okay, so if the science is so clear about how important this foundation is, what's the cost of ignoring it for so long? Well, when you look back at the data, the picture it paints is pretty bleak.
I mean, think about the last few decades. We've developed some incredible technology. We've gone from the very first antidepressants all the way to watching the brain work in real time with fMRIs. And now we're throwing AI and genetics at the problem. Our toolbox has gotten unbelievably sophisticated. But here's the bombshell. For 60 years, despite all of that amazing tech, the actual fundamental outcomes for patients haven't really gotten any better. We have shinier tools, but we're getting the same old results. That house is still standing on shaky ground.
And this brings us right back to Marina, doesn't it? The standard maps saw one thing, a biological problem, depression. But it completely missed the real story, the story written in her foundation. Her psychology, that feeling of being an empty shell. Her social life, the loneliness, the failing marriage. And that spiritual part, that nagging question, what is all this for? No pill in the world can fix a crumbling foundation like that.
So, okay, if the old blueprint is broken,
what do we do? Well, the idea isn't to just tear up the map and start from scratch. It's about evolving it. It's about drawing a better, more complete map.
You can think of it like upgrading our collective operating system. It's about adding a fourth, absolutely crucial piece to how we understand health. A piece that, frankly, has been pushed to the side by mainstream science for a very long time.
And we have to be super clear about what we mean by spiritual here. This has nothing to do with religion, okay, or any kind of mysticism. In this context, spiritual refers to that deep, fundamental human need for meaning, for purpose, for connection. It's like our inner engine, the thing that makes life feel coherent and actually worth living.
So you can see how this creates a much better model, right? The old way just looks at neurochemistry to try and control symptoms. But this new, integrated model? It looks at the whole person, their biology, their psychology, their social world, and their search for meaning. The goal isn't just symptom control. It's real, lasting healing. It's not about throwing away the wiring. It's about plugging it back into the foundation where it belongs.
Okay, so let's bring this down to earth. What does this actually look like in practice? For someone like Marina, or for the future of mental health care as a whole? What happens when we start using this new, more complete map?
Well, for Marina, true healing had nothing to do with finding a fourth or fifth antidepressant. It started the moment her treatment finally started to include her entire story. Her lonely childhood, that failing marriage, her deep-seated questions about purpose. Her healing began the second somebody finally decided to look at the foundation of her inner house. And this quote, it just nails the whole problem. The reason we treat the pain without listening to the soul is that our current clinical model doesn't even recognize the soul as a real thing, as a legitimate variable. You know, the system is designed to turn off the noisy chemical fire alarm, but it's not designed to actually find and put out the fire that's burning the whole house down.
And that leaves us with a really big, really provocative question to think about. If our map of the human mind has been missing entire continents of experience for more than 60 years, just imagine what astonishing potential for healing have we been missing out on simply because we've been hesitant to use a more complete map? What could we find if we finally decide to draw one?